James? My name is Suzanne Kendall, and I'm the founder of Right to Be Heard, and we are an organization here in town that works on bringing the citizens closer to their elected officials. We do anything that we can. We're a nonprofit, Washington State nonprofit, and we do everything we can to objectively, nonpartisan, objectively inform citizens about candidates who are running, about policies, local policies. This organization started in 2011, and I was living in Tucson, Arizona, and I was working for a candidate in Tucson back when I was still partisan. And part of the reason I loved this candidate is that they were Republican and they became Democrat. And I thought, okay, that's wide open thinking. And this was in 2011. And the candidate also worked very closely with civil discourse, national civil discourse projects. Very, very impressive person. And this was in 2009 when the Tea Party started, and I was all excited about the Tea Party because I thought, this is what it's about. This is the people doing it. You know, this is the people speaking out, and they're going to be heard, dang it. You know, and it didn't turn out as wonderful for me as I thought it would. And I came to work on numerous mornings, and our window was shot out. There's a lot of gun action, somebody keyed the entire side of my car because I had a sign on the window. And you know, it just goes on and on. It was a very hateful campaign in 2010. And we did the best we could. And right after my candidate won, she was sworn in. And within 1 week, she was shot in the face by a constituent. And I see her, you know, about twice a year, and because she comes to Washington State fairly often. But I've never stood in front of a crowd this size and just shared that. It is one of the most traumatic things. I was there when it happened. And it's one of the most traumatic things that's ever happened in my life. Shortly thereafter, I was saying things like, you know, her father was saying, oh yeah, the Tea Party did it. And I go, wait a minute, what do you mean the Tea Party did it? So they got to the bottom of that whole thing. But for me personally, I wanted us all, candidates as well as citizens, to have, yeah, great, we've got the right to free speech, but shouldn't we also have a right to be heard? You know, it's nowhere in the Constitution. Okay, so I started that in January, the week after she was shot. And after that, I moved back to Vancouver. We originally moved here in 1953, which, don't do the math. And when I moved back after college and practicing law up in Seattle for 30 years and going down to Tucson and running campaigns and doing all this political stuff down in Arizona, came home in 2012. So the reception for this in Vancouver has been really, really incredible. And this, over 100 people in here, pretty exciting, pretty exciting. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah. This is really, really, really a wonderful turnout from the candidates too. So when my friend James Tolson asked me if I wanted to run an online a candidate forum with him, I was very excited to be involved because we have kept ourselves to online candidate forums for the most part. So this is James Tolson, Director of CHAP, Concerned Humans Against Poverty.
Woo! Yeah, thank you. Okay, so you're going to see me running around troubleshooting, you know Murphy's Law, everything that could happen has happened. So we have two mics. One wired mic is going to be for that side of the room. The other wired mic is going to be for this side of the room. We're going to begin shortly. I want to, first of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to come here and see your candidates and see other candidates and show support. I just want to, let's go over CHAP. I'm sorry, my mind's running 100 miles a minute. I started CHAP formally in September 2016. We are a non-profit pending right now, so all of our paperwork's up with the IRS. If you're interested in what we do, and what we do is we advocate for those living in poverty and those living in homelessness, dealing with homelessness. We'll take anybody to varying degrees of volunteerism. You just, all you have to do is ask and we'll put you in the right spot. And even if it's not with us, even if it's with another organization like Food with Friends or Free Hot Soup or the various many other organizations that are in the county will point you in the right direction. So what we're going to do is, we've done the welcoming remarks. In a moment, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we're going to have all the candidates introduce themselves to you for about a minute. And we'll go over the platform here real shortly. So just make sure the sound is good, and then we'll go ahead and start with the pledge, and then we'll get right there. So we'll take about a minute. We've got some people coming in a little bit later, but let's get it started. Thank you. And for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ms. Krause. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to do a lot of mic work right now. So what we're going to do, every line of questioning will start with the mayoral candidates, and then it will go from one side to the other, starting with position 1 down to position 3, and then the next question will go starting with the mayoral candidates and then position 3 down to position 1.
Thank you.
So that's what we'll do. Okay, we'll keep it as fair as possible. I just want to say, you're here supporting if you're here supporting your candidate, that's great, that's fine, but civility goes a long way. And if we're not going to be civil, we're going to have to ask you to leave. I'm sure it won't get there. Vancouver is a lovely city. We don't do those kinds of things. So we just be civil. There will be no personal attacks. This is about the issues, and the issues that we're talking about today deal with poverty and deal with homelessness. So I explain the rules. There's manuscripts in the back for each candidate, and after we're done with the forum, feel free to come up. I'm sure all of them will want to talk to you. 30 seconds. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the introductions, and we'll start with the mayoral candidates, and we'll start with Mr. Greg Henderson.
All right, thank you, James.
Greg, let me interrupt you for a second. These two individuals work with Right to be Heard, and if you watch, they'll show you the time as we go along.
All right, thank you. My name's Greg Henderson. I'm running for mayor. And I just want to introduce myself briefly. I'm a father of 4. I've coached Little League. I've run a small business for 24 years now in Clark County with my wife. I love this community, and I decided to run for mayor because I've got some ideas that I'd like to see talked about and tussled about, and I think we can do better as a city, and I think that if we all work together, we can really solve this housing crisis. We can solve the opioid epidemic. We can solve a lot of the problems of clean energy and good jobs coming into the future. And thank you, gregformayor.com. Check it out. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Ann McInerney Ogle. I'm your Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Vancouver. Terry and I came to Vancouver in 1980. Our son John was born, raised here in the public school system. For 37 years, I've been working here in our neighborhoods, in our planning commission, in all of the different aspects, volunteering to make our community better. In 2014, I became your Vancouver City Councilor, and for the last year and a half, I've been serving as the Mayor Pro Tem. We have the wonderful opportunity to make sure Vancouver continues to be prosperous, safe, vibrant, and welcoming. And those are the key issues that I'm looking for in moving forward as your mayor. These are the opportunities that we have for all of us to join together. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Cox, United States Army retired. I came to Vancouver by way of the Army. I was transferred from Germany in 1998. I called Vancouver home for 19 years. I've been unable to run in politics given my previous career profession. However, in the past 4 years, I've run as a precinct officer and won. I'm also neighborhood association chairman. I bring real-world solutions to real-world problems, and homelessness is one that we're aware of. I'm here to be your mayor. You have my biographical summary in front of you. You can also find me online. Thank you.
Good evening, and thanks for being here this evening. Scott Campbell, I'm running for position 1 on the Vancouver City Council. I moved out here in 1985, and really one of the biggest reasons I'm running is, this community has been good to me, and it's a way of giving back. I've worked with several nonprofits on several years, sitting on numerous different boards. I also understand the inner workings of the city, and along with working with the county. Everything's going pretty well. I just want to keep us moving down the right track. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nicolette Paredes. Thank you, Chap, and Right to be Heard for hosting this event. I'm running to be your city councilor because I believe in Vancouver with an effective local government made up of men and women that represent all community stakeholders. I'm glad that we're all here tonight so we can have an open and honest dialogue about the issues that are facing our community. Poverty is something that I've personally been affected by as a child and now as a wife and a mother. And because of those experiences, I dedicated my life to activism in hopes of evening out the playing field. I truly do understand the needs and struggles of the community, and I'm excited to discuss these issues and look critically at the crisis our community is facing. Thank you.
My name is David Kerr, running for position 1. Thank you everybody for being here. I am running because we need evidence-based solutions to our problems that are responsible to both the present and the future. We need solutions that are going to work for our community, that work for all the stakeholders, and basically we need to move our community in a very positive direction. Some things we do right, some things we're not though, so we need to fix what's broken and keep what's working. You find me at presidentvancouver.com, and thank you all for being here.
Hi there, my name is David Roberts, and I'm running for Vancouver Council position number 1. Thank you very much for inviting me. I have been a citizen of Battleground for quite some time, but I've been a Vancouver citizen now for almost 5 years. I've been involved in the local arts community. A lot of you may have seen me on stage or doing other things involving the arts. I've served on several nonprofit boards with the idea of trying to help move our city forward. I'm really interested in some of the issues that have come up lately with housing and affordable housing and homelessness, and really want to try to make those issues a priority for our city. I'm also a small business person, I'm a real estate photographer, so I understand how it is to run a small business. I run several, and I do want to make sure that we make it much easier for our small businesses in this community to thrive and to be able to compete among all the big box stores. So that will be one of my priorities as a city official if elected. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Alicia Topper. I'm a current Vancouver City Council member elected in December of 2013. I want to thank CHAP and Be Heard and also Council for the Homeless for hosting this forum this evening. Over the last 4 years, I've been dedicated to issues around poverty, not only as your elected City Council member and co-chairing the Affordable Housing Task Force, working on state-level issues and moving policy forward that will protect our most vulnerable citizens in our community, including our seniors, individuals who are disabled, and are chronically homeless. I worked for Vancouver Public Schools for 3 years, working with children who are facing barriers to learning because of poverty. And as a city council member, I've helped pass 3 ordinances to protect vulnerable renters. I've also been advocating and have helped pass the camping ordinance changes that we currently have in place. And I'm hoping that you will elect me again for another 4 years so I can continue this work. Look forward to your questions during the candidate forum and also after tonight's event. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Justin Forsman and running for City Council Position 2. I want to thank you, I want to thank CHAP and Be Heard for having this event. I've been a native to the area my entire life, and a lot of people, well, some people run, for the notoriety, for fame, for money. I'm running to help increase our liberties here. I think that the government, as it gets bigger, our freedoms and liberties get smaller, and I kept asking myself, gosh, why don't people stand up? Why don't people do something about it? So finally I decided, hey, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to do something about it. So that's why I'm running. I'm running to stand up for the people. I'm running to help get the homeless people off the streets. I'm running to help find ideas to boost our economy, put more money in your pockets, lower taxes, and I want to thank you all for coming here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vaughn Henderson. You may know me from my signs, Vancouver for Vancouver. I'm looking to bring a youth voice to Vancouver since many problems are even more prevalent in the youth population, such as the opioid epidemic, which I've lost 12 friends to. I'm also looking to provide solutions for housing for all through shipping containers, provide an evidence-based drug policy, revamping our infrastructure with time and traffic lights, and environmental sustainability that can drive us forward into the future. Thank you. More at Vancouver.com. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Chaps and Right to Be Heard. And for all of you who have come in this evening, it's always exciting when we have a chance to communicate and connect with our citizens of our community. I'm Linda Glover, running for position number 3. I came to Vancouver in 1995 after having a very successful career as a teacher and a principal in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I followed my daughter here and have been involved ever since we moved here. I am the executive director of a nonprofit that has a store down on Main Street called Divine Consign. Anybody know Divine Consign? Our mission is to raise funds to support the critical needs of those across our community. We have wonderful nonprofits in our community. They always need more resources, and that's what we've been doing. During that time that we've been downtown, I've been involved with Vancouver's Downtown Association, working to revitalize our city center. And I think in the last 10 years, you can see we've been making quite a bit of change. That's just the beginning. I think the future for Vancouver is very bright, very strong, and I want to be part of helping make that happen. So please support me. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Chap and Right to Be Heard for hosting this evening. My name is Michelle Beartree and I'm running for position 3. I grew up in Kiamis and graduated high school in '96. I got in a horrific car accident immediately after and broke my back. I'm paralyzed from the waist down. Since '97, I've gone to college to get my associate's degree in business. I've also gotten my bachelor's degree in business. I currently work at Clark Public Utilities as a customer service representative and a senior outage coordinator. I have organized the outreach group Friends Without. Not all citizens have endured. We're experiencing things as a nation, for some are very unsettling. And I'm a human rights activist. My vision of quality of life for everybody is equal. I want to build stronger partnerships with the county so we can effectively work together to address homelessness, drug addictions, and mental illness. My platform is Equal Access for All.
Thank you so much. Keep going right there because you're after the mayor on candidates. So we're going to go ahead and start with the lines of questioning. Each candidate was given the questions 9 days in advance, and then the public works were provided with those same questions 6 days in advance. They might be in your manuscripts, but we're going to go ahead right into it. And we're going to start with the mayoral candidate, starting with Mr. Cox first. The first question is, U.S. HUD Secretary Ben Carson was quoted by saying, a line quote, "Poverty is a state of mind." Do you agree with this statement? If not, why do you think someone would find themselves living in poverty or being homeless?
Absolutely. Ben Carson's right. He's 100% right. And research bears this out. In 2013, the Brookings Institute, a bipartisan, nonprofit public organization, conducted a study which showed that by doing 3 things, a person had a 98% chance to avoid poverty completely. The study concluded that people who complete high school, hold a full-time job, and waited until marriage to have children had only a 2% chance of ending up in poverty. It goes on that those people who graduate high school, don't have kids out of wedlock, and hold down a full-time job have a 75% chance of joining the middle class. Notice that all 3 of these cultural issues, all 3 of these derive almost solely from lessons, attitudes, and ethics learned at home.
No, I absolutely disagree with this statement. Poverty is simply being poor. Knowing that we only had 1 minute to answer these questions, I prepared a packet for you, and there are extra copies in the back of the room that talk about answers to all of these particular questions. But those in poverty also include our elderly, our disabled, and children. And 15 million children do not have an attitude about poverty. As I look at the neighborhood associations that we have worked with for the last 30 years, we've worked on feeding, clothing, and finding shelter for those in poverty in our community. It is absolutely one of the most horrific things that can happen to a community, and it is one of the top priorities of your Vancouver City Council.
It's not a state of mind. I mean, any more than it'd be a state of mind for me to be rich. If I could imagine myself being rich. A lot of poverty is driven by people who may not have had a role model. A lot of us here, most of us here, had role models growing up that we learned from. We knew how to dress, how to talk to others, how to conduct ourselves in school and in interviews. A lot of people, though, haven't been blessed with that. They grew up, in poverty. And poverty creates a stress that feeds on itself and keeps going. There's a lot of other reasons. Addiction. People do give up. They lose hope when we're not there as a community to back them up as neighbors. I think we could do better.
We're going to start down at position 3 with Michelle.
I feel what Ben Carson said about poverty can be true. Working at the PUD and with low-income assistance and resources, I see what he's saying. When poverty is generational, when your grandparents, mom and dad, and everybody you live around is in poverty, poverty is all you know. When every day you struggle to even put food on the table and every day you fight to survive, yes, poverty becomes a state of mind. It's a vicious cycle that's hard to dig yourself out of. However, his comment was taken completely out of context. I guarantee you there's nobody out there when they're asked in the 5th grade what you want to be when you grow up, they answer with, I want to live in poverty and be homeless. Poverty also comes with hard knocks, with the cost of living, rent, insurance, food, child care costs, when one devastating event away from living in poverty. Perfect example in my life, 20 years ago, I got in a car accident. 30 seconds later, I was living off of $550 a month SSI and food stamps. I was living in poverty myself. If you're a family of 4 with a 2-income household and one person loses their income, you guys are now living in poverty. We are all one accident, loss of a job, death, traumatic car accident away from living in poverty.
I certainly don't agree with that statement. Homelessness is a multifaceted challenge which includes social, economic, and political elements. There's a variety of reasons: stagnant wages, single-parent households, lack of educational opportunities, increased cost of living. There's many factors. When 2 or more of those factors collide, families become overwhelmed. One thing happens after another, and until the path to recovery is overwhelming. Access to support and services must be easily accessible for these people. I believe programs such as Bridgeview will simplify the process and get the necessary help to the right place sooner. Our organization has given our largest donation ever to Bridgeview. I sit on the steering committee. It's almost a one-stop shop where people who are overwhelmed can come in and find some help. They don't often know where. The transportation around the community on a bus is challenging, and I think it will be very beneficial to have one place for people to go seek help and support and get themselves on the right path to where they want to be, productive citizens. Thank you.
I absolutely do not agree with Ben Carson. Poverty is attained through skyrocketing rents and medical costs to unemployment, low wages, and our local drug epidemic. It's not what people they're not in that state of mind. They want to get out, just the opportunities to get out are not there. And that's where we need to step in and step up. And we need to be a community that includes everyone and brings everybody up together.
Well, I think that it can be true and it can be false. There's a lot of people that don't aspire to be what they can in life, and it's unfortunate. Because anybody can be an entrepreneur, anybody can own a business, and anybody can be successful in life. So yes, definitely there is a state of mind issue involved there, but also there is the dynamic of drugs. There's the dynamic of inflation. The more money that we print, the less buying power that our dollar has, the more money it costs to buy things. The prices go up for rent, they go up for everything, and so a lot of it has to do with state of mind, but also a lot has to do with the government and restricting and raising prices and inflating our money and the lost buying power of our dollar.
So like many of the candidates up here, I do not agree with Ben Carson's statement. Being a daughter of a mother who was pregnant at 14 and had me at the age of 15 and worked 80 hours a week just to pay the bills, that is not a state of mind. It's about income inequality, minimum wage. It's about how much you're spending in your income for housing. Poverty isn't about what you think, it's about your environment and how you're going to survive. So with me, I think there are many things that we can do as public officials to help lift people out of poverty and provide tools and access to services, and that's what I hope to do as your city council member. I hope to give the children, especially the 39,000 students in the state of Washington, 2,000 of which are in Evergreen and Vancouver public schools, opportunities so that they can move out of poverty and not have to think about it, but definitely is not a state of mind.
Well, there's one thing that I've certainly learned about studies is if you listen to any study and then you look at another one, it will tell you the exact opposite. So they're not necessarily a gospel. Is he completely wrong? No, I don't think Ben Carson's completely wrong. I mean, we've all learned, having a good attitude will definitely help you move forward, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make you successful. They're fine words, but you have to take into account people's environment, their safety net, or lack thereof. I mean, people don't just find homelessness and poverty, it finds them. As in, most of us are, a couple paychecks away from being evicted or being missing a house payment. And that's something that a lot of people have to deal with. Ben Carson was very lucky. He was able to do good and have a nice career. But a lot of people work hard and play by the rules, and sometimes it doesn't work out for them. So we need to work on jobs and providing medical coverage for everyone so that everyone can succeed. Thank you.
I agree with a lot of what Michelle said about how it's basically, let's personalize this for a minute. I don't know about you guys, but if I was poor, I would definitely develop the same amount of, am I ever going to get out of this? How am I going to get out of this situation? So definitely hard work can help out, but at the same time, though, we do need to create living wage jobs in this community. The solution to this problem is going to be more living wage jobs. That comes from small business growth. So in order to solve the problems of poverty, homelessness, rising rents, rising housing issues, we need to create more living wage jobs, which means we need to support small businesses.
I too disagree with Ben Carson's statement, and I believe that statements like that are incredibly harmful to those who are living with poverty, that it's a form of blaming them for not working hard enough, not trying hard enough. But poverty is cyclical, and if you are born into poverty, you are already at a huge disadvantage. You have the deck stacked against you from birth, and that follows you into the schools you go to whether or not you have the ability to go into a university and pay for the applications to try to get to that university, to the jobs that you can obtain. A lot of people get stuck, and with best intentions, that is still the reality.
It's not a simple fix. There's many forms of poverty. You have absolute poverty, which is no food, no water, no shelter, no access. Relative poverty, family can't buy vaccinations, they can't buy gifts for each other. Situational poverty, which could be a natural disaster, your home burns down, your home gets flooded out. Chronic poverty, when poverty is handed over from one generation to another. I don't know what Ben Carson was thinking when he made that statement, so I can't speculate. But I do feel the problem is poverty is far too complex to say X is the single reason why people live in poverty. Key contributors, as we all know, are drugs and alcohol addiction, mental illness, and general economic instability. Now, does poverty affect your state of mind? Absolutely. How could it not? Think about those days when you wake up and you're on the wrong side of the bed. Now think of those days when you don't have a bed. So getting a hand up is critical to these people in these environments.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving along into the second question. According to the last report statistics, homelessness in our area has risen 18%. Under Mayor Levitt, a homeless task force was convened, Proposition 1 was passed, and there is a formal dialogue between the city and the county on housing. Do you believe the city has been moving in the right direction? What would you have done differently?
I think the city has been moving in the right direction on a large part. Not fast enough. Sometimes I think there's too many talks and not enough action, and I know that's not the way things get done, but we need to be thinking about real long-term solutions to getting people off the streets, out of tents, and arguing over whether we need to extend the camping hours this many minutes or that. We need to start thinking about shipping container villages converted into homes. In a village-like setting, we could house a lot more people than we're considering in a lot of the developments. I see how much some of these developments are going to cost, and I just cringe. And I think we can do better.
Well, I was going to ask you a follow-up. Yes. So tell me a little bit about the housing that you have seen in the area, on the West Coast, that uses containers. such as you're proposing. We have 30 seconds.
Okay, I've seen Eureka, California is actually placed in for homeless housing. In Europe, this is becoming more and more common solution for getting people off the streets and actually giving them the dignity of housing. You can actually have people having some skin in the game. They can have gardens in these places and an actual community.
Thank you. Well, I do believe the City of Vancouver has been moving in the right direction, but the city started 75 years ago with the Vancouver Housing Authority, and that particular agency has been working on homelessness and housing for very low-income people for, as I said, over 75 years. Along with Councillor Topper, I served on the task force to take care of several different pieces, but we worked on 3 different rental protection pieces. We're working on the accessory dwelling units. We moved forward with the Affordable Housing Fund that the voters approved. And the areas that I would like to see moving forward that we haven't covered yet is the severe weather housing, both for the winter and for the summer, the restrooms that we need for our homeless throughout the city, and then storage of personal belongings. We also have been working on a housing piece in containers. You'll notice in the packet that I gave you, there's an opportunity that Steve Hicks has been working on, a portable housing for weather in our community.
Okay, well, let me ask you a little follow-up. Do you think, I read this somewhere about you, do you think that you're too compassionate to be a good mayor?
I think someone said I'm too emotionally attached to the issues, and I'd rather be attached than detached. This is my community, and I absolutely love it. And I will work with anyone and everyone to solve the problems and engage my community for that to solve those problems, that decision-making process.
And you still think that you have the ability to think logically and to be compassionate?
I'm a retired math teacher. I can do a calculus problem in about 20 minutes. Yeah, I think I have the logic to do it.
Okay.
It is clear that homelessness has been and remains a prominent issue for Vancouver citizens. Homelessness is complex. It deserves real discussion and debate to find the proper solutions. The best approach to homelessness is to create a system where those who need help get easy access to it. While those whose needs are more temporary and transitional will get the help best suited to transition them into self-dependency. Any system that builds, promotes, and encourages reliance on government over reliance on the individual does damage to both, and in the long run helps neither.
So let me follow up with you. Who will make the decision? You said something like the services that people actually really need will get them. And so what I'm wondering is, since you're running for government, does that mean you, as mayor of a government, will be the one to decide that? Why would we give that kind of power to a government?
It's called representative government. Government for the people, by the people. Those elected to government have a difficult responsibility, and something that no one has mentioned here is responsibility to the taxpayers. We all want to do something for the people in our neighborhoods. There is no one here in this room that does not want to provide for poverty. How we do that, however, there needs to be guarantees, and there are no real guarantees, but there are best solutions, and those are Salvation Army type solutions, and they get the best results. And it's to standardize those solutions across the board in all agencies.
Thank you.
So to answer the question, I do believe the city council is moving in the right direction. Putting Prop 1 out to the voters and passing the housing levy by the citizens was an incredible step forward. But I do agree with comments tonight that we are moving too slow. There are three critical elements in my mind that we have missed opportunities. One is making sure we secured a location for our day center, which would provide shower facilities, laundry facilities, and temporary storage for individuals experiencing homelessness. That project is currently on hold. The second thing is finding an additional space for permanent shelter. We have not added shelter capacity in our county in more than 20 years, even though we've seen explosive growth. And we also have only 8 beds permanent for single women who are experiencing homeless, who are most vulnerable on the streets and have a high likelihood of being abused. The third is looking at our severe weather response program and working with the county and making that happen. We've had our initial meeting, which is a great step forward, but with the change in leadership, that's been stalled as well.
So before you pass that on, I want to pick up on what Mr. Cox brought up and have ask you a question about the taxpayers. So let me ask the question before you start answering. And that is, in the task force that was convened by Mayor Levitt, there were, I think, something like 15 recommendations in that range. Why exactly did the city of Vancouver jump immediately out of the gate to taxing the people who live in Vancouver? There were 14 other suggested actions, and we went right for the money and the heartstrings.
Thank you for that question, and I will correct the record. The first thing we did was pass 3 ordinances to protect vulnerable renters. One was no discrimination based on source of income, meaning if you are a landlord and someone has a Section 8 voucher, within city limits, you cannot discriminate against that person. Number 2 is the 20-day notice to vacate for no cause. We extended that time to 60 days, which is over and above what the state law requires. And the third is additional increase for rent, additional notice for rent increase. And then we decided to let the voters decide if they wanted to put their funds towards helping the homeless.
Then you did consider the burden on the taxpayer.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hi. Well, I'm not so sure if we're going in the complete right direction. When I sat down with the economic advisor at City of Vancouver, they said homelessness is not their problem. They said it's Clark County's responsibility. It has nothing to do with them. So I was a little bit confused by that statement. And I have seen the mayor say, well, we're kind of not clear how much of it is our responsibility. So it's unclear to me whether we are moving in the right direction when I hear statements like that. But I would like to take charge as much as I can and say it is our responsibility, and I'm willing to step up and do everything I can. And there's a lot of things that I think we can do. We can provide tax incentives for businesses that hire less fortunate individuals. I think we need a transitional housing program where people can get temporary housing until they can find a job. The day center is a great idea. That actually is a positive a program where people can get showers, do their laundry, and prepare for jobs. One last thing is...
Well, let me follow up with the question, and then
Okay.
time's up. What I'm curious about is when a city representative told you that it was not the city's responsibility, what did you do when that person said? You must agree with them, huh?
No.
Okay, so did you ask them to explain
They said it was
why the city's all involved in this?
They said it was a very complex situation. And that's all they really said about it. They weren't. We had a limited amount of time to discuss the budget for this period, and they said it was a very complex issue, but it's really not their responsibility. They said it's the county's. We wanted to get more into it, but the one thing I wanted to add, I have an idea, and this is something I'd like to propose, is a local currency. We can issue our own local currency, and we can actually back it by silver, because silver is very plentiful. I think this will boost our economy, and I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you, and that's perfect. Thanks for that. Okay.
All right, I do believe that Vancouver is moving in the right direction through collaboration between city and county and having the will of the people on board with Prop 1, but we can be doing so much more. My dad and I are proposing the container communities that will provide a safe, economic, and environmental housing solution for the homeless. That the one in Eureka, California would be about a quarter of the cost of any current solutions that I've seen Vancouver propose as a given. So moving forward with that, we can save money and we can house a lot more people and get people moving as well.
Let me follow up with a question for you. Can you tell me how your proposal would differ from the newly established Community Roots Collaborative, where they're talking about tiny homes?
Well, this would just be, a lot more, and creating more of a community where they're all working together and putting forward like what they can give to the community. If one of them can do haircuts, prepare food, garden, so that it's kind of all working together to produce something that gives them all some dignity and puts a roof over their head that can lift them out of homelessness, out of poverty.
Okay, thank you.
I think the city has done a good job and is headed in the right direction. We all know government moves slowly, but when you think of all the things that have happened that Alicia was so eloquent in expressing, that's a lot for a government to take on just since the late 2015. But any day that someone is without a home, any time someone is laying outside in the cold and the wet is too long. We do need to move along as quickly as we possibly can. But I really think we have a lot of effort going across the community, but I'm not sure we have an organized, focused plan for how we get through this, how we solve this multifaceted problem that I mentioned. Multifaceted problems have multifaceted solutions, and it's going to take a great effort and collaboration. It's going to take a lot of coordination with city and county and businesses and individuals and agencies to find a solution. And then we need to come together and start to focus on that and start to solve those problems step by step. We have a very generous, very giving community. When they see their plan and they were presented with a strong plan, they will follow along.
Quick follow-up. Can you give us any information about the formal city-county dialogue that hopefully is starting soon on housing?
City County? Oh, I did attend that evening, and it was exciting to see. I think it's the first time, and I don't remember how long, anybody's memory that they've come together. And I think we have a great opportunity to build on that right now. The county people were very open. You could tell the city people have had more experience and maybe address this more. So I think there's a great opportunity to come together and learn together. I don't think we know the solution. I read, and I hear a lot of debate about even placing a day shelter where the appropriate place is. Let's not be hasty and do something that's going to waste dollars. Let's make sure we have a good plan.
Thank you.
Gosh, I would wish you would ask me that question. I think the city's moving in the right direction, yes, but I think we could be moving at a quicker pace. Differently, I would have started working on rebuilding the broken and damaged relationship between Clark County and the city. At the meeting just back in May, there was still a broken and damaged, forced awkwardness feeling present. I have reached out to County Commissioner Mark Bolt. I've spoken to him. He is on my side and he supports my campaign. We discussed ideas about building partnerships and working together again with the city and the county should, and we started to build that partnership again. As your city council member, I promise to continue strengthening that partnership, because as a team, we can together start using we can together start cost effectively using our very valuable resources.
What are you going to do?
I got 15 left.
15 left.
Okay.
Well then, let me tell you, you spoke with Chairman Bolt about this?
Correct.
And did he have the same information that it's not the city's obligation? I mean, did he say that they were going to take it over or something?
Not that this county was going to take it over, not that the city was going to need to take it over, but we need to work as a team. Because at the joint meeting, the step we left with is we all need to get together and get our resources figured out so we're not overspending on our valuable resources. So Commissioner Bolt and I agreed
that partnership is necessary.
Good, thank you.
Yes, I do believe we are taking the right steps. The very current historic meeting between the county and city that addresses specific issues is a great start. And I'd also like to see the nonprofit agencies get involved and the faith communities get involved and quit working in the silos, but work together and share the knowledge that they have. There are good people doing incredible things, and if they could just work a little closer together, it'd go a long ways to solving this problem. This certainly isn't a jurisdictional issue. It doesn't cross jurisdictional lines. This is a City of Vancouver problem, and it's a Clark County problem. And if we don't work together, it's never going to change. Prop 1 is okay. It's not a lot of resources overall, but it's a good start. Now these funds need to be managed well and to the greatest positive effect. However, I also believe this can't just be a governmental fix. We need to bring the entire community and faith-based communities and even reach across the river and work with our neighbors in Oregon. Complex problems need a lot of people to rally and come together to solve.
That was what my follow-up was going to be. We look at Seattle, we look at, but are we looking in our same metropolitan area? And what do you think we can learn from what you see happening in Portland?
Well, again, as I just mentioned, getting people who do incredible things in their silo, get them out of that, and work together with other agencies, governmental and not, and come together, and I think incredible things will happen.
Okay, great.
I think the city is also on the right track, and I appreciate that the City Council opened suggestions up to the community to make sure that all voices have a place at the table and we don't leave out our most vulnerable neighbors. And I also realize that democracy does take time, and from 2015 to 2017, there's been a push in getting everything from Prop 1 so that the community is educated, as well as making sure that people go out to vote, that democracy does take time. But I think in the interim, funding of nonprofits such as Council for the Homeless or Habitat for Humanity and the like, who are there helping people on the ground day by day, I think we need to be pushing funds to them and pushing volunteers to them.
Let's see. I have nothing to ask you. Unless you'd like me to think harder. Okay, so you know that I have 2 tables at Habitat for Humanity's Raising the Roof. I'm a big supporter of private-public collaboration. And you have volunteered to be there, and can you get me 7 more people? I got a second table now.
I will find you 7 more.
Great. And everybody needs to look at definitions in the brochure as well, because Habitat for Humanity has uses that sweat equity that's in there.
I read somewhere that homelessness is up 18% from last year, so obviously that's not moving in the right direction. So the next question is, was Prop 1 a correct decision? It's too soon to tell if it is or not. It's going to take a couple of years to decide, looking at the hard data, the hard evidence, if Prop 1 is going to work or not. Obviously, Prop 1 can be, the funding mixture can be changed a little bit. But if I was on City Council, what I would do is what Scott said, have the private charities share information. What Houston did from 2011 to 2016 was actually a miracle. They reduced homelessness on children by 75%. This was in the Seattle Times about a year ago. They did so by investigating a network. So basically looked at all the private companies, about 70 different nonprofits and charities, hooked all them up to a network. And if you're homeless, basically you go to the government and they'll direct you in the right direction. And obviously it worked. Their homelessness went down 35% in 5 years. So obviously that's an evidence-based solution that I would fight for on City Council.
I'm Jamie. I work for a local nonprofit here, and I also work with a variety of the grassroots groups that advocate for the homeless. My question is about Yeah, follow up to Mr. Kerr. When you said a network, do you mean like they all group together physically, or do you mean like online, like a database?
It would be a database, correct?
So we actually already have that here.
Yes,
We
that's what
have-
I was referring to.
Yeah, we currently have an HMIS system, and I believe the majority of our nonprofits here do connect to that. I don't know that it's given us a lot of data. I don't know that it's decreased homelessness.
It might be federated, because I'm actually an MIS major at WSU Vancouver,
Mhm.
so it might be a federated database, so that does work. But pretty much, there's obviously ways you can strengthen a database. There's always ways to make it stronger, make it more connected. They relay the data so it gets to the right people correctly.
Thank you.
I think anytime that we can reduce homelessness and get people into housing is a good idea. So obviously the proposition was an excellent idea, and it is going ways to make that happen. But one of the problems is we need to address why people aren't able to afford, apartments or houses. And that's not just a matter of them, not having enough money. There is enough money out there. It's just people are not being employed full time and being able to afford those rents. Luckily, I think there's a lot more housing coming online that should allow for more people to be able to afford apartments, because as we all know, whenever tons of things start being built, all of a sudden then everyone's got way too much. So I think the middle class type of people who are having trouble with their housing will be taken care of. But we need to look at what Proposition 1 doesn't do, which they only allocated 5% to the people who are really in need, the ones who really need to be getting off the streets and be given some sort of housing so they can actually continue and have a successful transition. So, thank you.
As a follow-up on that, I think, and maybe I think that there's a statutory limit to the amount that could have been levied or something. Do you know?
Right, but as an amount, obviously there was an amount that was the maximum, but within that amount, it's all been allocated as to certain percentage goes to affordable housing, a certain percentage goes to administrative costs, and then there's only 5% that goes to temporary emergency type people. And I think that is so low because those are the people who need the most help getting back into the system versus just someone who is being priced out of the market.
Okay, thanks.
The third question is Suzanne's, and I'll be doing follow-ups.
So this is like a 5-part question.
We're still only at a minute.
Do you know why we're doing this? So that every single person can be heard. Okay. The City Council is currently deliberating on the decriminalization of homelessness, changes in the camping ordinance, creating increased access to public restrooms, and provisions of a public locker system. Would you please tell me, who's next up? Will you please tell me yes or no to each one of those programs? Which of those solutions will you actively work towards, and which will you not support? Who is this question to?
This is to the mayor.
Would you support deliberating on the decriminalization of homelessness? Yes or no?
Homeless are not criminals. Criminals exist within the homeless population, but being homeless is not a crime.
Great, that's a yes then. How about changes in the camping ordinance?
I have a statement for that.
Okay, so that's a maybe. Creating.
No, that's not what I said.
Well,
I have a statement for
I'm
that.
asking you a yes or no question. Would you agree to consider and support changes in the homeless?
I agree to selective softening of camping ordinance, but the problem can finally be solved only by encouraging and assisting homeless communities into housing.
Okay, how about yes or no? Creating increased access to public restrooms.
Absolutely.
That's a yes. And then provision of a public locker system.
Absolutely.
Government-provided locker system.
Lockers are not a problem or that heavy a burden on the taxpayers.
Okay.
Okay, that's a little tense right there. Hold on a second. Okay, so Chap has been working with the city council for the last 3 or 4 months. And one of the final decisions that the city council was to come back to the camping ordinance in September. And they have a spectrum of options. What Chap would like to see is a full 2-hour extension of the camping ordinance. But, you know, it's either no change, 2 hours, or 1 hour in the evening. And my question is simply, which one of those would you support? So, as the camping ordinance stands, is 9:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. What Chap would want to see is that move from 9:30 to 8:30 p.m. and then from 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. Or there's no change, or the last option with all the other things that we're working on is just to give that extra hour in the evening to move it to 8:30 p.m.
Given daylight savings time and the use of the park by the other citizens, it poses a problem to give them the extra hour in the evenings. With the lockers, there is no need to give them the extra hour.
Okay, thank you very much. So, no, Andy's. So do we need to restate the question?
No, I didn't
Okay.
know if...
No, I think we can just allow you to say what you're for and against.
Okay, so I oppose punishing people for eating, sleeping, camping when no alternative spaces are available. I also oppose punishing others who provide food, shelter, and assistance for those. I propose adding the additional hour in the evening up to the 8:30 line. I propose adding a restroom at Sculpture Park using C-Tran funding, and I'll continue to support more solutions for public restrooms open 24/7. We also have been working for how many months, time and time again, working on the whole hour of personal locker systems and the storage of that, not just for their clothing and mementos, but all of their personal identification and documentation that they need.
Thank you very much.
Yes, 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 and yes.
So my follow-up, I guess, do you support the full extension of 2 hours or just 1 hour?
Until we've got another answer, yes. I think we have to. We owe it to them as human beings. We need to work towards permanent housing solutions and not use this as an excuse to push it off, that we've solved a problem or something. But until we've got a handle on this, yeah.
Thank you.
Right down here. And I believe you were last first. Okay, so you go first.
So, would you be supportive of deliberating decriminalization of homelessness?
Oh, absolutely.
And how about changes in the camping ordinance?
As far as the camping ordinance, I would be interested in moving the morning time to like 8 a.m., but I think the 9:30 evening time seems like a pretty good idea as far as just things kind of seem to settle down in Vancouver at that time, so I think moving that up would possibly cause more conflicts.
And then creating increased access to public restrooms?
Yes, if you can visit my website, I have a whole thing on that.
And provisions of a public locker system?
Yeah, I would think as long as that was somehow connected with like a group like Share, so if someone was able to manage the whole idea of things being locked up, because I could see that could really become a problem with keys or however the system works. So.
Okay, thank you. You answered my follow-up. So yeah,
Decriminalization?
Decriminalization?
Yes.
Changes in the camping ordinance?
It's 8:30 p.m., yes, but the morning we have to ask probably local business owners what their thoughts are before I would give a yes or no on that. The PM one, yes, but the AM one, wait till we get more data on what the local business owners say.
And how about increased access to public restrooms?
Yes.
And provision of public locker system?
Yes.
So I'm curious, as a follow-up, do you only want to consult business owners for one part of the day, but not the other?
Because most businesses close at around like nighttime, around time anyway, as he said. But morning, basically you want to ask them just to make sure, because that's when they're opening their doors up. Customers are starting to come in So you want to basically ask them, hey, is this going to, because you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you exactly. So if you have less sales because of that, and I was actually talking to, at the last chapter that I went to, there's a homeless person named Jake I was talking to. He was in favor of basically keeping the homeless ordinance where it's at right now.
But what I'm asking you is, why wouldn't you talk to businesses who are open till midnight? And there are lots of downtown restaurants and bars and whatnot. Wouldn't you talk to them about that end of the day?
That is a good question. I would say basically if it's nighttime, dark outside, it's a little harder. Because basically, obviously, long-term solutions create living wage jobs so you get them out of homelessness. But in the meantime, definitely if it's dark outside, it's harder to see them, it's homeless people. So pretty much, you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. So if you have less sales because of homelessness, then you would, that's less money for profit, but less money for ways to fund solutions to these problems that we want.
Okay, thanks. How about decriminalization of homelessness? Are you in favor of that?
I'm in favor of all of these.
Of all of them? Okay.
The camping ordinance, the 2 hours, no change, or 1 hour?
2 hours would be, the way that I see it at this point, while we're working on a more permanent solution, it is difficult enough being in this situation and being given all of these restrictions on just wanting to settle down for the night that seems like a lack of compassion to me.
For business or for homeless?
For the homeless community.
Okay.
And I generally agree with all of them, but here's the real issue. It doesn't solve the problem. None of it does. City council spends a lot of time on items like the sidetrack from working on the long-term solutions. As I've been out in the community, I've heard a lot of discontent towards our homeless brothers and sisters, and it really bothers me. We need more beds in Clark County. That's no secret, and that's no surprise. I will work to get more beds in our community so we can get our homeless off the street and give them the dignity and a place to sleep, warm food to eat, and access to the services that can help them change their situation. That is my goal.
I guess my question is this. You said it doesn't solve the problem, but when we say that, we kind of curtail a little bit, and those small changes in the interim to getting to those problem solving, I mean, it kind of sets a tone. So I know that you're genuinely in favor, but do you also agree that the small changes kind of add up to that overall morale of a city, making this a city for everyone? And this is in no way a judgment on your character or anything, but you know, before we can start, I mean, we have plans for a day center now, but what are plans for a day center now doing for people who are living on the streets now? So I think decriminalizing, and I'm not getting on the soapbox here, but like small acts like decriminalizing, having more public restrooms, providing public storage, do you feel like those may be contributing to an overall better morale for everyone really in the city?
Well, again, my opening statement was I generally agree with all those things.
Okay.
But let's really focus on the big picture. Let's fix the problem.
Thank you.
Now, as a big surprise, okay, just keep going. Decriminalization of homelessness.
So yes, and I'm on record of supporting the decriminalization of homelessness. Changes in the camping ordinance, we just modified the camping ordinance in, I believe, 2015. Before, it was absolutely illegal to camp at any time, to sit, lie, or sleep. That does have an impact because it isn't in parks. That is the problem. It's actually illegal to camp in parks. It's in front of the street.
This is the yes or no part of your question.
It is. You're going to come back and ask me. So, and with provisions on that one. The third one is the public locker system. Absolutely. And increased access to public restrooms. Yes, we need that like today.
And now you have 30 seconds left, so would you like to expand?
Which portion would you like me to expand on?
Well, talk about the camping ordinance again.
So when we made the changes, it was hugely controversial with the business community, residents that were afraid that people would be sleeping in front of their houses on city streets. So it has to be city property. So part of that was looking at what time do the employees go to work in the morning and what time do businesses close downtown. And so that was really the focus with the hours that we set, with the argument that with inclement weather, if we can get a policy in place that will take care of that, if we can get a day center in place, then people have a place to go during the day.
Just a quick follow-up, because we have a pretty good relationship working together. I guess my question is this: how important do you think it is, as far as an educational standpoint, for folks who may take the approach that they don't want these kinds of things near their neighborhood? Yeah, a common term that is used is NIMBY, which is not in my neighborhood. Well, how important do you think it is to educate along with making these changes so that we don't get the backlash that we so commonly get when we just open the conversation?
I think it's incredibly important in forums like this that have the definitions in your pamphlet and we're talking openly about the issue. I live in the Houck neighborhood, which I think I'm less than 10 blocks from Share House. And from my perspective, what occurred around Share House with the encampments, the way that the sanitation and health issues that arose were not positive. And I think that perpetuates people's fear of the homeless community. And so I want to make sure when we do it, we're doing it in a very constructive way that will have a long-term benefit not only to our citizens but to our homeless neighbors.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay,
Can you
yeah.
get memorize it? It's
No,
only
I
been
do,
read
I do.
12 times.
I think that it's not a crime to be homeless. That's kind of ridiculous. Also, with the camping ordinances, I think maybe we should meet in the middle with the businesses. But like Scott said, it's not going to fix the problem. You know, where are these people going to go? They need a spot to camp. I think the city needs to allocate a property where these people can go, where they can camp, where they can have access to public transportation. Maybe we can put a bathroom there. Maybe we can put Wi-Fi there. You know, give them a place where they can be, where they're not going to cause a problem.
So, changes in the camping ordinance, yes or no? I lost you.
Yeah, I would be in favor of the hour. I think that we should be all meet in the middle. I think that would give more time.
And then creating increased access to public restrooms with Wi-Fi?
Yeah, and actually, I asked the city if they'd be okay with putting porta potties down there, and they said they already did that. They were vandalized.
And how about provision of a public locker system, yes or no?
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
All right, thank you.
Just as a follow-up, we talk online a lot, and something that you talked to me about was that you came and you know poverty very well. How important do you think these changes are in the mindset of someone living in poverty, making the city more accessible to them? What do you think they think with these changes?
Well, it's very important for these people that don't have that access. And yes, I have been homeless as a child and as an adult. And anybody can go there and anybody can get out of it. And that's a beautiful thing. But we need to have compassion for these people. But we do have to understand that there is private property issues. You can't be violating somebody's private property. As Alicia said, as long as you're on city property or on parks, that's reasonable, but when you're sleeping in somebody's yard, that's not reasonable. So we need to find an issue or a way to fix these with proper solutions, and these are partial fixes.
Thank you.
All right. I've testified before City Council to get an additional 2 hours added to the camping ordinance.
So that's a yes. And decriminalization of homelessness.
I'll get it done. My proposed container communities would have both public restrooms and lockers, and we need to be actively working towards decriminalizing. Definitely, because you're not just a criminal just because you don't have a home to live in. You're a criminal because you break the law. It's pretty simple. You laid out in our Declaration of Independence that we have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and these people deserve that just as much as anyone else.
You were sitting next to me, actually your father was sitting next to me when we testified at City Hall. If you had to rank these as far as decriminalization, public restrooms, public locker system, and the camping ordinance, how would you rank them?
I'd say probably,
what would be
honestly,
the top priority?
I'd put them in the order that they're in the question: decriminalization, changing the camping ordinance, public restrooms, and lockers.
Thank you very much.
Decriminalization, definitely, fragile people who run into problems shouldn't be penalized to make their life even more fragile. So I would be in support of that. Camping, I think we've been leader in our community, in our state, as with the camping ordinance. I want to keep the hours the same. Restrooms, I gotta tell you, when I'm out running around the city, I need a restroom. It shouldn't be a topic that's connected just to homelessness. That's just something that our community needs to have. And then the last thing, lockers. You know, I was involved in a conversation yesterday at City Hall about helping the homeless. And I'm not sure we know what the homeless want to do with lockers. I think are we asking the homeless about how they want to solve these issues? Or are we all just assuming we know best? And I think there needs to be more conversation with them.
So to follow up on that task force that you attended, and I wasn't there, you know, there are a bunch of folks with CHAP, with Food with Friends, with a bunch of organizations that do street outreach, including Spinelli right here. And you know, that's a large part of the conversation. What would make your life better? And I think one of the consistent things that they say is, I don't want my stuff to get stolen when I have to go to these appointments. You know, so they worry about the security of their things. But one thing I want to hit on is, you know, we went to City Hall twice, CHAP. One time the meeting was very much for the changes in the camping ordinance, and then the next meeting was very much against. And you know, we had a lot of community that were for, but particularly business community was very much against any changes in the camping ordinance. As a city council member, how do you really bridge the gap and get some kind of compromise there?
I think you're painting the business community with too broad a brush. I would not say the business community is against the homeless. I wouldn't say that they were testifying against them. They were talking about when they wanted to open their store businesses and how much time they had to clean up after. If there was some kind of a mess, how much time they'd have to clean up so they could open their business at a reasonable hour. Our business community supports the homeless. We raise a lot of money. We bring in sales, we increase sales tax, we support the community. And I think if you go to any kind of an event, you see business supporting those in need. And I just think we need to not paint a broad brush that business is against homelessness.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Do you want to ask me? Do you want to ask
Sure.
me? I just want to react quickly.
The City Council is currently deliberating on the decriminalization of homelessness. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
And how about changes in the camping ordinance? What changes would you agree with?
I would agree with the 2-hour change, ideally.
Okay. Creating increased access to public restrooms, as Linda is proposing?
Yes, and that is actually in follow-up with the solutions that I'm actively working towards.
Okay. And the public locker system?
That is in tangent with the public restroom buildings.
Okay, great.
Amy Spinelli, she's going to introduce herself and tell them what work she does, and then we're going to start with Mr. Greg Henderson, and then position 3 and down.
I was caught off guard earlier by the mic handoff. Just why my introduction sounded so awkward. My name is Jamie Spinelli. I work for a local nonprofit. I do street outreach and case management for anybody living on the street. That's in my daytime. In my nighttime hours, I also go out with one of the grassroots groups, Food with Friends, and do outreach in my free time. So case manager by day, advocate by night, I suppose. So number 4 is to keep people in their homes and create affordable housing. Do you favor banning no-cause evictions within the city limits and/or enacting an inclusionary zoning law? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes on both of those. I favor just cause eviction laws. Seattle recently passed an ordinance. It's called the Just Cause Ordinance. I think there's 18 specific conditions, one of which must be met before an eviction can proceed. I think that's something we need to think about. I think we need to talk with our friends and colleagues in Olympia about lifting, perhaps to discuss rent stabilization, to figure out what's going on, what's driving our crisis, causing near homelessness, coming up for a lot of people facing near homelessness right now over this issue. And the inclusionary zone, I support that. Yes.
Okay. I don't have any follow-up.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie. I too favor just cause evictions, and I invite our community to come together to create that list for those reasonable causes. Similar to Seattle, but we have some of our own opportunities down here. I also favor the voluntary inclusionary zoning with the opportunity that we can discuss density bonuses if we have individual developers who want to consider permanent affordable housing for low and moderate income families, but also the developers who are using public funds or fee waivers or tax abatements have the opportunity to do that mixed income strategies that we expect. And also in the zones that we're looking at, especially for those areas where the city owns land and has developed a master plan, we have the opportunity to allow essential public sector employees such as police officers, teachers, firefighters to live in those developments controlled through the city through the master plan option.
So this came from one of the ideas from the Affordable Housing Task Force that you guys worked on. Why was something like the inclusionary zoning or things like that didn't take so long to implement and really didn't cost anything, it was minimal if anything, why would those not have been enacted first before the tax levy?
Well, recall that we were trying to work fast to start making some serious input into finding options for housing. The inclusionary zoning goes through a planning process, and we're also, part of that is looking at the accessory dwelling units. So we're looking at that entire bundle. Terry and I had the opportunity to have the first legal ADU in the city of Vancouver, and for the last 13 years have offered free housing to individuals in that ADU. That's all part of the package that is moving forward.
How do I get somebody into that unit?
I am hearing impaired. You probably recognize the hearing aids, so I would ask you please to repeat the question.
Okay. Sorry, it sounds very loud
Hold
to
the mic
me.
down here, and I couldn't hear everything you were saying.
Okay. To keep people in their homes and create affordable housing, do you favor banning no-cause evictions within the city limits and/or enacting an inclusionary zoning law?
Very good question.
Thank you.
Banning no-cause evictions. Doesn't this tie back to the Washington state law about evictions? Isn't this the statute? Would have a difficult time changing it, but I believe it has to be changed at that level. And that's not something the city's going to be able to do alone.
I know other cities have done it, like in Washington. Seattle's done it.
If we can do it, then absolutely, we don't want a no cause. What we want to do is keep poverty, people that will be on the streets in their homes, we're going to be better taken care of. Particularly when you're talking about less disadvantaged people, the elderly, kids, etc., families with kids. The other part of your question?
Enacting an inclusionary zoning law.
The zoning laws, and we're referring to the affordable housing, I assume.
Yes.
Affordable housing is not affordable in Vancouver, nor will it ever be until we change the building codes. Building codes dictate what we can build a home for and how much. Change the building codes, we can build some pretty affordable housing.
So is that a yes or no on inclusionary zoning?
Well, the zoning is the easy part, changing building codes is the other part. there's a two-phase approach to this.
Okay, thank you.
Starting position 2.
So sounds on the surface like a very simple question, but it's actually complex. I do support just cause notices to vacate, and whether it's no cause or just cause, it still isn't an eviction. So it doesn't go on a person's record, just to make sure everyone understands that. So yes, I do support just cause, asking individuals to be displaced from their home for no reason at all, that are on month-to-month leases, just isn't fair. And the second piece with inclusionary zoning, we do have a form of inclusionary zoning when individuals receive tax abatements. What that means is that you're asking a developer to set aside a certain percentage of units in their development. Typically, it's anywhere from 10 to 20%. And I think inclusionary zoning would be an easy way to start integrating people of diverse incomes into development so you don't get rich parts of the city and poor parts of the city. But I do believe that there will be developers that are requiring and relying on private financing who do not receive public funds who will need an in lieu of option. So I would support that provision.
I have a follow-up.
Okay, thank you.
That's your voice for a second.
You're the zero teacher. The inclusionary zoning, can you tell me what do you think that will do for the education for kids who are growing up in poverty?
So inclusionary zoning, so anytime you can have mixed incomes, especially with students who have opportunities to see the possibilities from people of higher incomes, it creates so much more opportunity. And so that in itself is going to help propel graduation rates. It's going to help increase, potential skill building and networking, being able to network with more affluent and connected people. But there are a ton of studies done on zip code, so you'll hear a lot about, your future should not be predicated or dependent on your zip code, and this inclusionary zoning model would take care of that.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm in support of the just cause and also the zoning, but we got to understand, is that going to keep people in their homes? Now, the cost of living is steadily on the rise, and people are working full-time generally. So now we have the dad and the mom are both partners. They're both working full-time, and they're barely getting by. When just 50, 60 years ago, generally there was one person working and could provide for the whole household. So as people are working, the buying power of their money is steadily going down. So I think we need to think about that, and that's where I bring that. We can also issue our own currency here, that we could circulate it within our own community, and that would boost it. And that could be like a pilot program. Also, we need to focus on the discrimination for people trying to find housing. People with a criminal record, people with bad credit, it's very hard for them to find a home to begin with. So, also more jobs.
I do support enacting just cause ordinances to protect renters, as Seattle has done, and I also support inclusionary zoning to provide for more affordable housing options. Since nearly 1 in 4 renters pay over half their income towards rent, it's kind of something that we need to be giving them another option. And I think we can do both of those, and that can help out a lot.
What would you say to the landlords or the private owners who would likely give you some backlash on I guess on both of those actually, but mostly the no cause eviction one?
You absolutely need a reason to kick somebody out of their home and onto the street, because it's just not moral to throw someone out when...
Landlords will tell you it's their home because they bought it. And I don't think there's one candidate here who is opposed to just cause. Raise your hand if you're opposed to a just cause eviction ordinance in Vancouver, Washington. Every single candidate is for it. Okay, that'll be good for you.
Thank you.
Well, you know how I feel about that. I think that the City of Vancouver's done a good job of incentivizing developers. and with the tax abatements, and that's working well. I think the more we can do, as much as we can do in a positive way to encourage people to solve the problem, we should do that. I think there's a balance, just we talked about the tenant and the landlord. We may have to make sure that there's a balance so that landlords will have places to rent, and those developers will develop pieces of property. If we make it come out of balance, they won't do that kind of development. So I think, again, we need to think it out thoroughly, and we need to make sure that we have a balance that help us solve our problem.
Thank you. I fully support banning a no-cause eviction and using the just cause ordinance like the one in Seattle. I also support the inclusionary zoning laws. The affordable buildings that are currently being built are going to house families for years. The housing cost and crisis is going to take just that long, or if not longer, to stabilize. Meanwhile, the city's growth is on the rise, and the housing market is short in supply. The better we prepare the immediate future and we set those zoning laws in place, the sooner we'll have affordable homes available for those who really need them.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming back after the break. I appreciate that. On the initial read, the Seattle no-cause evictions, seems well thought out. It not only protects the tenants, but it protects the owner as well. But I would hesitate saying, okay, let's automatically do that here. I would like to hear more about how it's working in Seattle. Is there anything that's not working? And then once we find that out, then bring it back down here and say, okay, how can we make it better? The second part of it is inclusionary zoning. On the City of Vancouver doc, I think it's page 11. It gets into that a little bit, and requiring that all new multifamily developments have some affordable component is a strong idea, and if it's done well and with good parameters, it can have a very positive effect with everybody.
What kind of parameters are you thinking of?
I really don't have those as it. I think that would come from what's working elsewhere, and then when it gets brought down to this area, what can we do better?
Thank you.
I also support just cause ordinances. I live in an apartment that is for low income, or at least it was when I moved in. The rent has skyrocketed. And with the previous owners of this apartment complex, my neighbors had issues with them trying to be evicted for no reason other than a new tenant moving in would be paying more because our lease specifically has rent control. And I think that this is a good way to protect families from being evicted, and then those who are stuck in certain leases who cannot move out, they are protected. And with the inclusionary zones, I support that as well, and I think that will provide options for families that they wouldn't otherwise have.
Thank you.
Yes, yes and yes. Is there a follow-up question? Or?
Yes. So Portland just passed the law where landlords have to pay tenants that they're asking to leave. Was it something like $4,500? Right, for no cause to relocate. Would you also be in favor of something like that?
I actually didn't know they were doing that. It's something to think about, definitely. You have to adjust for, obviously, what their financials are versus we're a smaller city. Mm-hmm. So I would say maybe our developers have less units, you may have to reduce it possibly. It's something to think about. I'd have to compare our financial situation to their situation. But definitely something to think about. I would definitely look into it.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm also not in favor of no-cause evictions. It doesn't make sense. But my only concern with that is like with the Seattle ordinance, it's got so many restrictions and so many things that someone has to go through that I think it's overly complex, because the real issue is, like Nicolette was saying, what stops a landlord from just raising the rent to an exorbitant amount that would pretty much cause an eviction because you can't afford it. So I think you have to sometimes let the business, the market be what it is, and figure out ways to allow people who are of lower income to get into those apartments, like the inclusionary zones, and having subsidies, because otherwise, I mean, there's so many ways you could possibly evict someone, you know, and I just don't think it's a social engineering is not the best idea to make that work, so.
Thank you.
Thank you all for returning after the break.
You're welcome.
Number
I saw
5.
that coming.
Yeah. Well, okay. In an effort to balance the interests of those who need a place to live centrally so that they have easy access to services, and the needs of downtown businesses, will you commit to locating publicly or even privately owned vacant land within the city limits for portable homes such as huts, tents, or mobile tiny homes that would not be subject to the camping ordinance? You've seen this before.
Well, under certain conditions and on a temporary basis, absolutely. Now, we can go into detail on those conditions if you'd like, but it must be, somebody has to oversee it. There must be supervision.
Would you like to see something, just a follow-up, would you like to, as far as managing, would you like to see that passed on to caseworkers or counsel for the homeless or maybe faith-based? I mean, what options are you looking at as far as managing, like, so you locate, you're the mayor, you're locating sites, whether they be public land, empty public land, or private owners. You know, you're kind of still married to the idea. So what would you like to see? Would you like to see faith-based initiatives or just nonprofits?
Statistically, faith-based programs have the highest rate of success. That is what I would like to see. Now, what kind of conditions they're going to be under and how do we evict those people that do not comply to the standards that have been outlaid, that still needs to be worked. But tough love, faith-based organizations have the highest rate of success, and that's what we need to implement.
Thank you.
Well, actually, we already have this opportunity because our faith-based, our churches are allowed to do just exactly that. I wouldn't limit it, or I wouldn't have just limits of huts, tents, and mobile tiny homes. We have David Bilby with Go Connect who has Safe Park that is also parking cars and mobile homes and trailer houses, and those are all on church sites, and the churches have that opportunity to manage it, have the ownership of that. But I'm looking for those shelter opportunities that integrate the approach of working with individuals and their families in order to make sure that we have stability, access to health, counseling, job training, skill training, those types of ideas. But we're looking at all of those, and they're happening right now. We not just downtown, we're looking for the distribution of services. So moving that day center to other locations will also provide those opportunities.
As far as a follow-up, in all of those things, you know, outreach is really, really important. But when you look at the pie chart, commonly outreach gets a rather small kind of sliver of the pie when it comes to money. In doing those things, would you be looking to increase the amount of funds that are spent on those folks who are really pounding the pavement and putting in that work?
And all of those faith-based and nonprofits have the opportunity to apply for funds in the city of Vancouver. We have what they call CDBG, you have a definition in here, but we also have home. So they have the opportunity to apply for additional funds to support that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I absolutely think that this is something we need to do. Right now, much of the the camping is, the outreach is struggling to reach these people and connect them with the services they need. If it's more centrally located on bus lines, that they can connect with the services they need, I think we're going to see a lot of benefit from something like that.
Thank you. I think we're going to start over here with Linda. You haven't been able to go fairly early yet, so we'll start here with Michelle.
I would support public-private tiny villages of huts or tiny homes in city limits. I'm not feeling very comfortable about tents. I just don't know if they're conducive to our weather. That seems a little cold. I mean, I don't like it when it's a rainy night and I'm in a tent. I think that they should have restrooms and laundry and access to services to help the residents seek more permanent housing. I've read of several communities around our area that have been successful, and so I would support that in our city limits.
Thank you.
Yes, I would commit to publicly locating, locating either public or privately land vacant with us in the city. As a matter of fact, about 15 months ago, after I organized my Feeding with Friends group with our church, I met with Councilor Hanson about an idea I had for a safe tent community for the homeless, a place where they could sleep without fear of being assaulted at night. At the time, the plan wasn't in fit for the city, but when I become your city councilor, I plan on dialing that in and making that plan or part of a similarity, something like it.
Thank you.
I like that idea. I believe that different lots around the city should be designated for portable homes, as well as, like I've said multiple times today, like container communities that are along bus routes that can provide easy access to whether it's employment, whether it's food, whether it's even voting. They need to vote too, and they need to. They're part of society, and I think we need to make sure that they're included as much as possible.
Let me ask, because I wasn't on the ball asking people, this is a yes or no question, so let me rephrase it and raise your hand if you will actually endorse the idea of having land, public or private, that you will push to locate available land as close as central city as possible, but at least within the city limits, for individual homes, so huts, tiny homes, whatever, on land. They could be even located in storefronts. In Seattle and Portland, they are on floors of office buildings. So are you willing to push for, I understand that a couple of you mentioned, well, we've already got this, not in numbers that are really helping people. And you would not have the conflict with the business owners this way. We're trying to balance the interests of the business owners who want them out of their tent at a certain hour. So would you look for expansion of, I'm not talking about car camping. I know there are programs that include that. I'm talking about surplus property with the city. Again, as Mr. Cox or Lieutenant Colonel Cox,
Call me Steve.
I'll call you Steve, okay. As he said, that basically it would be, I'm not saying that they would be able to stay there forever. It's a temporary rather than living in a tent downtown in a business doorway. Just raise your hand if you would propose that. So 4 of you? 5?
Some fairness. Yeah.
Okay.
You
can't, all the specifics.
That's pretty broad. Right. Yes, let's, yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm in favor of land, public, private, allocated for huts, but we need to understand these people are going to need electricity, they're going to need bathrooms. Wi-Fi is good for finding employment. access to public transportation. Those are all important things. I have an idea where we can locate. Now, this is in the affordable housing plan, but it's a little different. They want to find homes that are bank-owned and allocate them. I want to investigate the banks that have illegally foreclosed on these homes and seize these homes and have an opportunity to give them to people that qualify. And if the banks don't like that, well, we can maybe prosecute them for illegally foreclosing on them. But anyways, the code enforcement has a lot of power, so these little huts are going to need, the codes are going to have to change. And also, if we could have some kind of transitional housing facilities, much like a shelter, but gets people into row homes, that'd be awesome too.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so in a yes or no statement, I do not support tents or huts. I would support tiny homes, and it could be on both public or private property. But like many of the candidates here tonight, it would need to be under certain conditions. I think the social service element and funding is critical. The Council for the Homeless worked for a year trying to locate a spot where we could do just this. And both the private sector and faith community couldn't come up with a solution. And we can't steal from the CDBG and home funds because that takes away from the current programs that rely on that funding to give critical services. So this is where we start talking about our housing levy money and we start talking about our partnership with the county.
So, I mean, just to follow up on that, it's really kind of a neighborhood community coalition building there, where you can bring different aspects of your community together and really kind of hash these things out. That's what you're saying. In all of you saying yes or no to this, you're saying you're supporting opening the dialogue, opening the conversation, and getting people together in order to do that. You're not necessarily just saying one act, you're saying actively seeking.
Yeah, I would be actively seeking, which the active seeking has taken place, it is taking place. It has not happened. But the big thing, I think, is looking at models like in Olympia, Coyote Village is a self-managed facility. There are amazing models in Austin, Texas that are doing great things. Right now, San Francisco is looking at Blockables, which is a company based here in Vancouver who will be building what's similar to these ideas of trailers, but instead they're good construction at low cost that have case management units. There are models out there that we can look to as a city, and yes, we should be doing it, but I don't want huts or tents. I don't think individual.
Sorry about that.
Yes, I'm absolutely in favor of transitional housing, tiny homes for sure. Like the Kenton neighborhood is just, I believe they just opened a facility over there, about 10 or 15 homes. They're very small, so I would expect things to be larger than what they've got. But something that allows people to get out of tents. I'm totally against tents, type of housing that's going to break down, especially at winter time. So definitely, I think there's a lot of city property that could be looked at as far as making small pilot programs that would test that out. So that would be what I would definitely be in favor of.
Thank you very much.
I definitely support it. I support pilot programs. We should have probably several programs. We can test out which one works the best at getting them out of certain situations. So we could possibly use Prop 1 money, possibly, if there's room available, to help create pilot programs. It's obviously going to take a couple years to look at the results, the evidence, then we can see which ones work best at getting them out of these situations. So yes, I support the dialogue. I support working together with our faith-based partners, other nonprofits.
Thank you.
I am also open for dialogue. I think that given the magnitude of this crisis, we need to get creative and at least throw ideas out and see what we can work with. And I really support the tiny homes idea that's being pushed by the Community Roots Collaborative specifically. I like that there is a huge emphasis on community and building a safety net within this group of homes and working on self-sufficiency and through gardening programs and the like. I think that those kinds of programs are really important to be looking at as well.
Thank you.
I think I have a pretty good understanding where the question is coming from, but I'll tell you this. I don't think institutionalizing at Tent City is giving our homeless population the respect and attention they deserve. I believe there's options out there. I don't think we've exhausted all of them. What we really need action to create more housing and emergency shelters. And I believe that saying, here's a corner lot for a tent city, isn't actually doing that. As I said earlier, I'm committed to finding the solutions that do more than provide another Band-Aid fix.
Thank you. Did you already answer the question? No. Oh, yeah. You got something to answer?
I've not answered the question.
Okay.
Thank you, I'd like to answer the question.
Absolutely.
The solution, agreed, as I mentioned earlier, is getting homeless into homes, not tents. Temporary quarters, transition housing to move people along. We need to simultaneously be aware that the more we incentivize homelessness here in Vancouver, the more we attract of it. The more we attract, the more disproportionate crimes associated with homelessness, meaning the more taxes we have to raise for emergency services. So we have to be cautious on what we're doing. We need to do it right. And we need to move people into homes and then on with their lives, not have setbacks. Unintended consequences.
I'm going to give you just a teensy follow-up. So homelessness has, and we have in no way incentivized it. We're dealing with a crisis, but it's escalated 18%. I think there's a disconnect when we say incentivize. We're really dealing with a crisis. Do you see us taking further steps to deal with the crisis as incentivizing homelessness?
Well, no, James, and I think your question is more of a statement. I think you actually hit the nail on the head. Homelessness went up 18% the minute we started to address the camping, allowing the camping, Proposition 1, all those other things we're doing is continuing to bring people, everyone from Florida. We have people coming from Florida to live in Vancouver. We have homeless crisis that has brought that crime to the issue. We have needles everywhere. We have drugs everywhere. It's a complex issue.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause for all of our candidates that came out today. Very brave of them to come out. Feel free, I'm sure you guys will talk to as many of our constituents as possible, but this concludes.
Yes, it does.
I thank you. Suzanne, thank you.
Thank you so much.